Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse. This is a DC Comics podcast, but this is not a regular episode. This is a post-DC FanDome 2021 edition, and we'll talk about the trailers, and some of the tidbits of news, and perhaps the general feeling of disappointment that this show brought with it, maybe?
I don't think I'm disappointed because I expected so little. But I didn't expect anything anyway.
I suppose that's fair. Yes, I guess I can get on board with that sentiment.
But they hyped it up so much last year, and don't get me wrong, it was a decent showing. It was pretty focused last year, but there wasn't a lot in the way of comics or anything. It was just like, here's a couple of game announcements, some trailers, and it was cool. So I wasn't really expecting anything more than that this time, and that's pretty much what they delivered.
I think where I was expecting more out of this was not so much more than last year, but just that, okay, last year they somehow scraped together a Batman trailer, despite the fact that they only shot, like, I don't know, 30% of the movie or something silly like that. And I thought, well, there's like 4 movies coming out next year, so I'm expecting trailers for at least all 2 of them. And instead we got like weird kind of teaser trailers, but it was like, oh, we're still in production though, so we can only show you like a tiny weensy.
The weirdest one for that for me was Flash, where Ezra Miller was like, we don't have a trailer. We don't even have a teaser. And then it proceeds to play what is a teaser trip, right? It was like 20 seconds like that. That's a teaser.
Well, if I was all good on that, even it was almost a full minute.
Yeah, well, there you go then.
It was definitely
a teaser trailer.
The Black Adam one was more what I would call a less than a teaser. Because that was like people walk into cave-looking area and Black Adam disintegrates someone. But
it was like just a hint of a tone of one particular scene.
Yeah, that was basically all that was.
The start of the movie is what he said as well, right? Yeah,
you presume so. Which I mean, fair play. They're not want to spoil things, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I felt like it was a lot more. Do you know what it felt like? It felt like those EA press conferences from E3 where it's a lot of people sitting at their computers. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're in front of a green screen with this ridiculous CG background the whole time. But the vibe of it was very much, we're working on things. Look, see, we've got people over there playing with toys, which is like the previs animated segments of what's... Jeff Keighley even appeared on this show at one point.
Did he actually?
Yeah, he showed up for the interview with Ed Boon about the Injustice animated movie. Nothing about the games or like a possible Injustice 3. It was about the animated movie.
The one that just came out?
That already came out, yes. So that was a nice waste of time. Which, honestly, before we get to any specifics, and it's not that there was no good things, there are good things to talk about, but my first thing that I would like to say about this is that this thing was 4 hours long. And I was kind of okay with that at first, because last year they did this weird thing where it was like 48 hours, but they repeated a lot of things multiple times, and it was kind of this weird scheduled thing where you had to look up a timesheet and tune in when you wanted the thing you wanted.
They wanted it to be like a full Comic-Con style.
Yeah, whereas this was a bit more leaning towards kind of like an extended like gaming conference where it was like, no, it's just, we're not going to give you a schedule, but it's a show that'll last this amount of time. And they even did that same thing that some of those other conferences do, where all throughout the thing, and they kept reminding you, oh, by the way, that new Batman trailer's coming. And they knew you were sitting.
Do you know which show? I know which E3 show this is. It's the PC gaming show. Because it goes on for hours, and they're constantly like, "Hey, that thing's coming." Like they do it.
I would compare it more to Ubisoft, partly because of the over-the-top cheesy presenters, which they didn't need at this. There was a lot of that, very cringy in places.
Did you watch the PC gaming show this year? Because that had over-the-top presenters.
No, I did not know.
I sat on that route.
I sat out this year, but I'd seen the previous several years, and this reminded me more of Ubisoft with the vibe of an EA in terms of like how much they've actually got to show of some of the things. There was some Zoom call stuff, and I mean, I don't necessarily begrudge them taking segments to have like, oh, a sit down with a cast of Supergirl because the show's ending, so they're all going to sit and reminisce. But so much of people, actors and people who work on movies and TV shows talking about comic book characters always boils down to the exact same fluffy sentiments. and I felt like I heard the same general, oh, this character's so important because they're unique and it's exciting. I'm really digging my teeth into it. We're going to embody it, and it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen before. And it felt like constant PR shilling fluff words that didn't really mean anything beyond just there's a thing happening, and they're doing it.
I'm kind of glad because I was actually busy when it started, so I didn't watch the whole thing live. I kind of just waited till it finished. Just all right, here's the important bits. And I think I watched all the trailers that we're going to talk about, as long as there are no more that Pete didn't tell me about.
I just sort of told you off the top of my head what the
yeah.
If I bring up anything that you did not see, then you'll find out breaking news.
I spent less than an hour easily watching everything.
10 minutes into this, maybe 20 at most, but right at the start, right in the first couple of segments of this show, I tweeted that this show could easily be 40 minutes if they just cut out all the fluff. And that was like at the start of a 4-hour show. I could tell that this was only if this went in the route of because to be fair to the gaming companies, Sony and Microsoft have both actually done a good job of trimming the fat to the point where we get like a brisk 40 minutes to an hour, just trailer.
Nintendo too, to be fair.
It's just very, very, lean. It feels like a bit of a thrill ride because you're getting so many things so quickly. It's the way to do it. And there was so much fluff and bad jokes from presenters in between, and not even jokes in the say that they're trying to crack jokes. Like, for the most part, it's just like silly stuff like, oh, I keep saying Shazam and hope that I'll turn into a superhero, but alas, it's not working. I'll just have to keep trying. Let's keep the show going. Like, shut up! Just shut up! And just show me the things. So annoying. And then there's segments where they're like, here's some fan art montage, and I'm like, I can see that shit on Twitter like every day. I don't need to see it.
That was fine last year where they had like a whole website kind of dedicated. You could go to, oh, here's the section where, or if you want to look at some fan art that we've curated, right? But as part of this show, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go the route where you want it to be a show where people stay tuned in to get to the big tentpole things that they're excited about, but you use that, and there was a couple of times I'll give them credit. They did take time, at least, well, more than twice. They did like a milestone section where they talked about some of that stuff, which tied into some of the projects that are also working with movies and TV. But there was 2 times in particular where it felt like they really made an effort to, like when we were talking about Superman stuff. Jim Lee came on and he talked about the Warworld saga, and he talked about Superman Son of Kal-El, and basically said, hey, that these are just starting or about to start. Go to your comic book store. It's going to be a big deal, and kind of pimped out the big story that's about to start, particularly Warworld Saga, which feels like a really good buzz name. It sounds like, hey, this is a thing. You can jump on board now. It's like, okay, good effort, right? I don't need to know about it. I haven't paid attention to this, but this felt like a valuable use of time. You got people on the hook for your Batman trailer that's coming later. Shill this at them. This felt like a valuable thing to shill at them. Likewise, later on, there was a Wonder Woman thing where they were talking about a big thing they're doing next year with all the various, Diana, Yara, Nubia. They're all sort of going to be. I can't remember what it's called. Something about
like Trial of the Amazons.
Yeah, something like that.
I saw Becky Cloonan tweeting about it earlier.
But the point being is, again, here's an upcoming story in the comics. You should jump on board. Get into the comics, right? Great idea, right? That's a valuable use of your time. But there was a lot of fluffy bits that let's celebrate the 20th anniversary of Smallville for 10 minutes, and that's going to put me in a good mood.
What the annoying problem is here, because there are fans of Smallville, right?
Yes.
That is objectively a fact.
I mean,
they might think the bits about the Action Comics World Saga and the Wonder Woman, they might think those are the fluff bits that they don't care about, that they're just sitting through waiting for, whereas the Smallville thing, they're lapping it up.
Yeah, I think the objective side to that, though, is one's about promoting something that's coming, and one is not. And I think, even if you don't care about the comic side of things, which, it's a DC show, so, I mean, just accept that that's part of the whole thing. Yeah. At least I think you can understand and appreciate that that's part of the whole business, whereas anytime they took to talk about something that had already happened or was already airing, it kind of felt like, even stuff like Doom Patrol and Stargirl, I don't know if they necessarily needed more than a quick thing. right? But
I'd say by the same logic, though, it's promo for them as well, right? Yes, they've already started. Yes, they're in season 2 and 3 respectively, but you can pick up new audience members this way.
No, they can. But again, it felt like they were spending extended periods on them when.
I'll have to tell you when that. I don't know how.
A quick 30-second teaser saying, "Hey, this is airing now. This is streaming now. Go catch up." I mean, that would do you, right? Maybe tease one thing that's coming up or something. Because all the shows that are currently airing more or less got at least a segment where they, and for some of them it was like, okay, for Superman and Lois, we've not seen anything for season 2 yet, so it's like, hey, season 2 is coming. We're excited about this. That's slightly more interesting, say, one of the other shows, which is like, hey, you've seen pretty much all the seasons so far, but the finale's still at air, so that's going to be good. Like, some of it just felt a little bit like drawn out. I feel like you could probably do like maybe not for all the TV shows, or maybe there's a couple you want to highlight because they're new or they're special. They did they showed some Naomi footage, for example, and that felt like an important. Hey, this is the first time you're seeing this, so that felt like a bigger deal. Whereas
there's a happy middle ground between this year's show and last year's, where it doesn't need to be 48 hours, this big 2-day event, but you could split this 4 hours up into, you could have the TV section. So here's all the TV stuff, and you can throw all of this stuff in there, right?
Yeah, I think fundamentally what I've learned, and this is coming from the gaming conferences, which this is kind of like the equivalent of, and I think ideally it should be the equivalent of, is the point, is that I don't really want interview segments, and there's a lot of interview segments in this. I'm here for trailers, I'm here for news, I'm here for, the juicy bits, and all the, I mean, it's not to say that interviews shouldn't exist, but that should be like auxiliary, like that should also be up on the website right after the trailer's shown, and you can go and check out more if you want to, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where, while they're clearly trying to emulate some of the appeal of the video game conferences, they're also trying to emulate parts of a Comic-Con, and they want that like almost like panel feeling, right?
And it took
interaction.
It took 10 years of live audiences on the internet shitting on conferences before they kind of became almost the ideal version of what we all wanted from them, right? They're not, I mean, I wouldn't say they're completely perfect, but they're
a lot closer.
They're a lot closer than they used to be. I mean, I do think some of them are a bit too trailer focused and we want gameplay, but that's specific to video games, obviously. When it comes to movies, TV, like trailers are kind of the main thing. Like that's what we want. The trailers do the job. And maybe announce a new title, announce a cast for something. I mean, we all made fun of the Nintendo like Mario animated movie cast announcement because it was partly just because the choices were a bit, mediocre, but it was just kind of funny how they threw that into a video game conference. But that would actually be a big deal at one of these things, like if they said, hey, we've got a show coming for, I don't know, we're doing an Outsiders show. Here's your list of names. We've cast like all the main roles. Here they are. That would actually be a big thing to announce at one of these things. Like it would feel like a big deal, especially if you get a couple of stars that are like, hey, playing Katana as this actress, and that could be a big headline for the day. But there's nothing like that because the roles have all been announced and cast in advance and whatever.
Little bits here and there now.
So yes. So which is just to say that I don't I think I came out of the last one a lot more positive because because of the way it was formatted, I wasn't trying to like take it all in, but because they presented it to me this year as a 4-hour package that you just sit down and watch as an event, which I'm more used to doing because of video game conferences and things like that, I just sat down and put it on. And yeah, I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I was muting certain segments when they were when they were having interviews about Smallville and stuff. I was going for a piss, I was going to making a sandwich, I was whatever it may be. I wasn't paying attention all the time because not all of it was worth paying attention to. But they presented it to me as a package, so I felt a lot more annoyed about it at the end, despite the good bits or the good things that came out of it. So
I get that.
There's a balance.
I'm glad I didn't watch all of it now.
There's a balance to be found somewhere, and I'd say, well, the good things they showed are good, and we'll get into them. There was so much shit to sit through, and not so much that the projects look shit. It's just that there was a lot of shitty PR fluff.
The presentation of it rather than the actual content.
Like I think the sit down interview with the cast of Supergirl, looking back at the show now that it's ending, It's a perfect video to have on their YouTube channel, but as part of an event I have to sit through to get to things I care about, you know, at least I understand why they shill certain things that are coming up, because they want to try and grab new audience members for a comic book, for a new TV show, for a new movie they may not have tried. But all right, let's get into it then. I suppose the biggest thing is the new Batman trailer, because it is a full meaty trailer, 2+ minutes. It's coming out in March. It's relatively imminent. The first trailer was excellent, so it was exciting to see what they were going to have for this. There was some interview stuff beforehand, some Zoom call stuff with the director and the two leads, but nothing really interesting from that.
I didn't say that. Just some of these that they put up on YouTube included like the fluff around it, like Ezra Miller with the Flash trailer, if you can call it that. This one was just, here's the trailer.
Ezra Miller, by the way, looking like if you went to create a character in an RPG or any sort of video game and hit randomize, that's what it comes out. It was the weirdest hair with this weird choker, but with like a waistcoat kind of thing. I was such a weird...
over the top glasses.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he had the circular glasses or something. Yeah.
He's
really
a strange one, isn't he?
He is a very strange one. So yeah, the Batman trailer though. It looks good. I would say I like the first trailer more, just because it was more focused and stylish, whereas this one was a bit more of a generic movie trailer because it had to...
Here's some action, right?
Yeah, and the action looks good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, that shot where he's walking down the corridor and the gunfire is going off towards him, and it's just like illuminated by the flashes from the guns.
Yeah, they actually did something similar in Dark Knight Rises. That scene in the subway when he's going to see Bane, where it's just lit with the gunfire, whereas here it's actually bouncing off his Kevlar or whatever it is.
I actually felt as well like the music is very inspired by those movies, right? The tone that they're setting with the music.
Well, interestingly, I love that they're keeping this Nirvana song, Something in the Way, as a running piece. Like, I wasn't expecting that to come back. I thought, that'll just be the first trailer's song and then it'll be forgotten about. But they actually started with that again.
But even like before it got into that, because it was, I don't know if that was right at the start or if it was slightly in. It was as it was coming in on the shot of the cup that the Riddler was on, and it had like just the tone playing. It was very reminiscent of that distorted cello sound that we got a lot in Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, with Joker. Yeah, it's almost like a razor blade sound, almost the way. Yeah, that was I think obviously Riddler. They're teasing heavily without showing him too much. We see the back of his head, we see like some riddles or whatever, but we don't see him.
That's fine.
Here's some narration. Yeah, no, build the mystery. I'm all for it. Colin Farrell's still unrecognizable.
I'm baffled.
I still don't believe it's him, really.
My
to be
brain knows that it's him just because I've been told that. I physically cannot see it.
No, I can't see it either. It's
that makeup department is winning awards.
It's wild. We see a lot more Selena this time. Get a vibe of her personality, which seems Selena-esque. Yes, it's Catwoman-y, as boring as that sounds, as a bit of analysis. A bit more of Alfred, a little bit more of Gordon. Not so much lines, but we see him standing next to the bat signal and some sort of more classic shots. I think the big thing is just we get more examples of the car in action coming through the fire. A bit more combat. We see the hallway sequence obviously stands out a lot, but there is actually a scene earlier on where someone shoots at him and it just kind of bounces off of his chest. I can already see complaints on the internet. Like, I already saw several saying, "Just shoot his face." Like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure in the heat of the moment they're about to come to that realization right before he snaps their arm.
It's as if people aren't trained to shoot for the body mass because it's the biggest target, so you're more likely to hit.
Yeah, which is that's very accurate. That is exactly where most people are trained to shoot. So, but no, it's still got that same steampunk feel. His Batman voice sounds all right from the quick.
Yeah, got no problems with it.
Quick glimpses we get of it. Yeah, I have no complaints. Yeah, it's hard to really... I mean, I guess the only real complaint you might really have coming into this, because again, you've got a good director, you've got a lot of things to be happy about, is that you just didn't want another grounded and gritty Batman. Even if it is a different flavour of grounded and gritty, it's still definitely another grounded and gritty Batman.
Yeah, this is very much taking the serial killer movie vibe, right? It's very Seven, almost.
Yeah. People who said it's like a David Fincher. Or, I saw someone today say it was like a Denis Villeneuve Batman movie, which I guess that's what if you look at Prisoners.
If you learn Prisoners, yeah, I was like, I can see where they're going with that.
Yeah, a little bit of
Fincher,
that.
I think feels closer for me, but yeah, it's got that vibe to it, which, while is again, it's another grounded Batman. It's very different to what we had in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, I would say I'd say it's different enough to me, but some people want him fighting Killer Croc or whatever. Which don't get me wrong, I get the appeal. I get the appeal of that. I mean, I like Killer Croc, but
I'll take a fun, campy Batman. I know I'd probably enjoy it a lot more than you would.
campy. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for fun, but campy's maybe not my type of Batman. That's
I know.
But yeah, I don't really have any hot takes about the Batman trailer. It's kind of like what I'd expect it to be.
Trailer, right?
Yeah. Like I say, it's maybe a little more of a generic trailer versus the first one, because it's just kind of like, here's some action, here's some quick sound bites, some quick clips here or there.
This is the one that's probably going to get more people to see the movie, though.
Probably, but that's just
for
because
the general public. Here's all your hot action sequences that you want to see. That'll probably get people in the door.
Yeah, but that's because the general public are idiots. You need
They are, yes.
bright flashing lights. They need the look at the shiny. Look at the shiny.
If it sells, it gives me a good movie. I'll take it.
But no, looks good. It's coming out in March. Not that long away, really, when you think about it. So, and they're adamant this is theaters only. They're not going back in that seemingly at this point. So.
I bet they're so glad they promised a year only for HBO Max, right?
Probably. But then again, you look at Universal and Blumhouse and panicking about a month before Halloween Kills and saying it's going on Peacock. It's going on Peacock as well. Like, they made that choice fairly last minute, so I'll never count out.
The new Addams Family movie as well, the animated one.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention to that.
That ended up going, we're going to put this on streaming as well. I don't know if it was Peacock. I'm assuming it probably was. It's Universal.
Yeah.
But
clearly there's some stuff that's underperforming because of this, because not everyone's going back to theaters yet. It's just, even if everything's open, not everyone's going yet.
I still haven't been to see the new Bond film yet, which
I don't think you're missing much.
I know that sounds like a nothing, but I've seen like every Bond since they've come out, since I was going to the cinema. I've seen them all on opening day. This is the first one. I mean, it's been like 2 weeks. I've still not even thought about when I'm going to go yet. It's a big deal.
I hope Mr. Robot wins. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I care about. Before I forget, just because it's tangentially related, they did talk a bit about the Batgirl movie. I mean, they're not shooting it yet, so there was nothing to show. The only thing that I heard as I was sort of half paying attention that sounded interesting is they were very adamant to confirm that Barbara will have red hair. And the actress herself wanted to know if I'll have red hair. So they were excited to say Barbara's got red hair.
Good.
So there you go.
Good. We've got at least one ginger on screen.
So that was basically it for Batgirl. I mean, it was a similar kind of thing with the Blue Beetle HBO Max movie. Again, they had like the main cast member with a couple of, I don't know if they were the comic writers or if they were working on the film, but either way, there was a conversation about that as well. Again, nothing to show, but it was just
it's happening.
All these things are happening. But in terms of actual movies that we got glimpses of, one way or another, I'll just get Aquaman 2 out of the way quickly, because there wasn't a trailer for this or a teaser, but there was a lot of like, here's us on set and joking around, and here's a look at people in costume and yada yada. There was a lot of that. Not much to say. The only thing that stuck out to me about this was bugging me in the small part of the Smallville section that I also heard, was the back patting. That's what I meant to say. That
makes more sense. See, normally I would have assumed that's what you meant, but given that Batman is a very heavy featured.
Yes. Well, anyway, there was a lot of talk about how this is the most successful DC movie of all time, and that was because James Wan made an incredible film, and we're here to do it again. And I'm like, it was mediocre.
I saw the thing about how Smallville is the one that started the superhero craze off.
I don't know if I heard that specifically, but again, there was a lot of like, because they had Rosenbaum and Welling on a couch.
Saw it on Twitter.
Yeah.
In an article that I assume was from this interview, but maybe it was from another one very recently. But that's what they claimed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bit I heard that was bugging me is that they were talking about seeing each other for the first time and they're working the show, and I think Rosenbaum at one point said, "Yeah, you embody Clark Kent," and I'm like,
Did he though?
Yeah. And Lana called in for a quick Skype chat as well. She had a message for everyone. There was no Alison Mack Skype call.
Can't possibly imagine why.
I was like, where's Alison Mack and all this? Well, actually, the other part that made me laugh is that
Imagine being like a big Smallville fan, but never having heard that news.
I know, I'm just wondering why there's no Chloe.
Like, what? Why's no one mentioning?
At one point they went to a reel of other people who had guested on the show or something. It was like, here's some special guests who have got messages.
Did you have Amy Adams in it?
To celebrate. They didn't have Amy Adams, but what was stuck out to me is I didn't even recognize like half the people they had there. I mean, Sam Witwer was in there, some other people, but Lionel Luthor was in. I was like, he wasn't a guest. He was like a regular character for like at least half the show. What the hell? He was a main character. He was in the opening titles for years.
He was literally a main character for at least half that show.
Yeah, he was there longer than Lex was.
Yeah.
And you've got him on the couch. Oh dear. Anyway, so that was that. Anyway, so in terms of actual movies that we got things for, we got something. We did get The Flash, even though Ezra Miller claimed there was no teaser. We then get a teaser trailer right after he said that.
Yes, which blue balls the entire audience for no reason.
I went back and watched this again because I was so like, whatever was on before it was so boring. I wasn't really paying attention, and I didn't even realize that it was Michael Keaton's voice that was talking over the.
Yeah, and it's like
chunk.
Clearly, you see his suit from the back, and then it ends with him pulling the sheet off. That's very clearly the Keaton Batmobile. Like the clear original. Why hide that now?
Yeah,
like,
it says Ezra Miller that's pulling the sheet off. Yeah, and it cuts to black as the sheet comes off, and you just hear him go, "Holy sh!" And then it cuts to in production. Like that's a thing now. They say in production at the end of one of these teasers.
Yeah, but everyone watching this, because the people who are watching this are the people who care, knows what it is you're teasing there. So why not just show it, and then you can have the pictures of that on the internet to spread around that people will be like gushing over.
It was surprising to me. Like, it wouldn't be that weird to me if there was no other mention of Batman in the trailer, but because everything in this trailer, we see like the bloody cowl sitting on the floor, we see the suit from behind when they asked him, "Are you in?" I thought that since you were teasing Keaton so much but not showing him, and I get why you're holding that back for now, I thought, they'll show them the Batmobile at the end, and that'll be the thing they show today, and that'll be your image.
Pretty iconic in its own right.
So
and, you show that, and you get that image around on the internet, and you're like, hey, that's...
So I was expecting it, but if they hadn't shown any other Batman stuff, and then they did this tease at the end with the Batmobile, I'd get it as well. I'd understand why, you're just teasing it, but... So all this trailer, it was narrated by Michael Keaton. There was like multiple shots of the mansion, of the cave, like everything was focused, which is worry number one for this Flash movie, quote unquote, the Flash, is that everything's revolving around the fact that we're getting 1989 Batman back. And yeah, so it was weird. It was weird that they blue balled us and everything. Like there was nothing paid off. You get a glimpse of Supergirl. There's two Ezra Millers because that's everyone's favorite idea.
I'm waiting for for Keaton in this movie, his Batman to just be like Conroy's Batman was in the Crisis crossover in the CW. Just grumpy old man is like, I don't give a shit anymore, and just
doesn't get involved. Yeah. I could see that. The only real thing that obviously we see teased for Flash specifically is we see like at least one or two versions of his suit, and we do see the implication of his mother's death and like going back to the house, a la Flashpoint, which makes sense.
Definitely not sick of seeing that though, are we?
Yeah, it's not like the show has done it like 50 times in the time that we start. Which
a couple of hundred episodes. It's probably done it at least 30 times.
So. Well, as we're on the subject of the Flash, actually, I'll mention some of the show things that popped. Now, we both stopped watching the Flash TV show, of course, because it
was terrible.
It was terrible, and we tried to like struggle through it while it was terrible for a long time. And there were some laughs to be had, every meta must die, or whatever the line was. But they had this thing where they had Candice Patton doing, like, because she's the journalist in one of the shows, she was doing like news flashes throughout the day, like revealing like small little bits of news. So that was like a gimmick thing they had. Now I don't think it was actually in one of those bits with her, but it was just like maybe the Flash TV show section where the presenter was talking to Grant Gustin, and he said, "You're finally doing something in the show that you've been asking for a long time, Grant. Is that right?" And he's like, "Yes." Do you know what it is? Do you know what they're doing that he's excited about? Yellow boots.
Yeah.
They're getting the yellow
They're
boots.
wrong. Very nice, I'm sure. I'm sure it looks better, but it's not going to fix any of the problems, is it?
It's just funny to me that, like, we said it's missing the yellow boots way back in like season 1, then again in 2, then in 3. And it's just funny that season 8 or whatever they're going to be on when this happens, years after we stop watching it.
It's like when they finally let Amel grow a beard.
Or even just call him Green Arrow. That took 4 seasons, remember?
That did take a while, yeah. But they were insistent, no facial hair at all. It just slowly crept up there. It's like, yeah, that's a bit more recognizable now.
If anything, we're lucky that we weren't calling him the Streak up until season 6.
Well, it could have been the Blur.
Or the Blur. No, that was a Smallville thing, wasn't it?
I know, it was. That was the red blue blur. That's a mouthful, that.
Oh dear. So yeah, the Flash. Honestly, I think Ezra is still wildly miscast. I am not excited for him in that role at all. And then
he's a bad actor and a terrible person. And why does it exist?
But then, even if you ignore that and just focus on it as a Flash movie, the fact that it's all revolving around the fact of like Batman '89 nostalgia is just
and Flashpoint being the first Flash movie. There's no baseline.
Yeah, I don't like anything about it. This is like the worst possible scenario, pretty much, for the first Flash movie. Within reason, at least. I'm sure, yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure you could think of an even worse scenario if you really wanted to, but in terms of within reason of what they've got on the table to use to make a Flash movie, this is the worst scenario.
It's pretty bad.
So, that's that. There was a teaser for Black Adam. We had The Rock introduce it. It looks good in the cloak. I mean, if anything, this is going to sound weird to say, but The Rock is so jacked that he looks almost too muscly to be Black Adam. Like, see when you see like the biceps coming out from under the cloak, I'm like, he's a bit too bulky almost.
You know what it is? You've got to a point where you know what like Cavill as Superman looks like, for example, and that's like, that's a pretty good benchmark. Or even Zachary Levi as Shazam, where it's like, no, they're toned, they're well muscled, they embody the part of like, okay, no, they've got the extra strength. And then Black Adam is, with the right, just turns it up about 4 notches from that, and it's like, but I've gone too far there now.
Yeah, I feel like Rock should be painting himself green and being the non-CG version of the Hulk rather than anything else. I mean,
Doomsday.
Oh, there you go. It could be Doomsday. Stick some pointy rocks on him, and
yeah,
there he is. It looks fine though. He eviscerates a dude. Basically, that's what you see. And just drops the skeleton or the skull onto the ground. It crumbles. That's basically all it is. But it looked good.
I'm looking forward to Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
That was funny. All the buzz stuff before the teaser, where it was like cutting through interviews with everyone, and Pierce Brosnan basically said, "I was Bond for 10 years, and nothing compares to this movie." And I'm like, "All right, calm down, Pierce."
They were really hyping up the action of the movie as well. Like constantly, it's like, "Oh, it's got some of the biggest, best action you've ever seen in any movie ever." I'm like, "Can it be a good movie too, please?"
Yeah, it's not really what I care about in a Black Adam movie necessarily. It's like,
no,
it's that weird thing.
If you view it as a all right, it's a Dwayne Johnson movie. It's like this is just a stereotypical action movie. You want the big, stupid, dumb action. From that point of view, I get it. Like, because that's generally his audience. That's the audience he has cultured in his movies, right?
But I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, though, is that it feels like they're selling a generic movie with generic buzzwords rather than trying to sell people specifically on the idea of why Black Adam is a unique idea and a unique character to tell a story about. So it's just kind of weird, especially in that case where this specifically is supposedly aimed at people who actually at least give a little bit of a shit about DC. So this is the audience you should be maybe leaning more into. No, this is why Black Adam's interesting. He's more of an anti-hero. This is why he's going to be a challenging character, and why this film will feel different from, you know, these other movies that you've been getting. Well, you know, whereas, you know, when they're doing the Aquaman 2 sizzle reel, and you know, I think Juan says something to the effect of, "Oh, we're going to show you something you've never seen in a superhero movie before." Well, that's all fine and well, but I sat through your first Aquaman movie, and it was a hodgepodge of like crappy versions of other movies. Like, so I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. Whereas at least with Black Adam, you say, well, this is a character who's, you know, he's kind of like, in a lot of ways, he's kind of DC's Doctor Doom, and you know,
yeah.
There's some interesting, and Marvel have not made a movie about a character like that, so this is a genuine new ground that they can maybe get to for the first time. Someone with a bit more nuance, with an interesting set of motives that is a bit more,
not just generic good guy or bad guy.
Yeah, a bit more grey, a bit more.
He's got stuff going on.
Yeah, sells on some of that, maybe. I don't know. So it's an idea. Which I should mention Shazam 2 as well. They did. They showed, you know, it was more like Aquaman 2, where it was like behind the scenes clips. Helen Mirren, Helen Mirren made me laugh at one point because she was also in a talking reel just celebrating Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary, and I kind of thought, yeah, you've been around for pretty much all of it, right? You're about that age.
Can't be far off. I
thought,
don't actually know, but
you're an eyewitness of Wonder Woman's 80 years.
76. So yeah, I mean,
close enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only comment I had is it looks like there's going to be a lot more, of course, with the other kids in Shazam mode, which makes sense.
That makes sense for what you do in a sequel, though.
But it also, I mean, admittedly, this is a bit further on from when they shot the movie as well, but they had the kid who plays Billy Batson there to present the start of this, and when he's there in obviously the newest stuff, which is him presenting in this green screen presentation before he turned into Zachary Levi, I'm like, dude, you look far too old to be Billy Batson already. Like you look like 20. You know, because I think I heard something about the oldest girl who plays Mary Marvel is going to start just playing the adult version as well.
She is, yeah. She's playing both.
Which is cool, and part of me even thought they might just do that in the first one because she was already like 18.
I wonder if something, I feel like they were doing it the other way around. Like I think it was the one that played the adult version is just kind of like they're just going to swing it, and she's playing the younger version as well. I could be wrong there.
I think that'd be harder to buy though, because I think the adult version's like in their mid-30s, so it'd be kind of a weird jump for the kid version.
Yeah,
because I feel like the actress who's playing the young one was the one who was in like one of the Annabelle movies that the same director did, the second one. So I think
you're right.
Yeah,
I can't find it now, but you could be correct.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me than taking the adult one who only showed up at the end of the movie versus the one who was kind of there for most of the character.
Yeah, you're probably right then.
What is weird though is like, do you do that with all of them eventually? Because it's going to be kind of weird to lose Zachary Levi and then have like this kid. I say kid. He's not a kid anymore, but yeah. But
yeah, I think a lot of them you could get away with it with, but like I say, Zachary Levi's kind of, because he is the face of the movie, right?
Yeah.
He's the one on all the posters from the start. Harder to replace, at least right away. Like, you know, if it's in 10 years' time, sure, because, you know, you can, we were just talking about James, but you can James Bond it, so to speak.
Yeah. I do wonder if they eventually just do a thing where like they try and minimize the screen time of the kids so it's just the adults most of the movie. Just so they don't have to worry about it as much. It's just like a bookend where they turn into the Shazam versions at the start and that's it. Just so they're stuck with that. I don't know. But you see some glimpses of the villains, which is Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu. You know. Yeah, you know, like it's fine. It's behind the scenes footage. There was no actual trailer footage or anything like that, so not a lot to go on. But yes, I mean, if nothing else, this did show that there was a lot of projects happening across the board. You know, I mentioned them showing a little bit of Naomi. Again, not a trailer. It was just a couple of quick snippets while they were talking about it. But it, you know, it looked fine. It looked like it had some style. Like she skateboards out the school at one point when she hears that there's an incident with Superman. So it looks like it's going to be trying to feel unique compared to the other CW shows and be like the comic, which is nice. But that was basically that. In terms of other TV stuff, if there was anything, nothing springing to mind. Oh, they did confirm that Pennyworth is moving to HBO Max and that they're shooting season 3. So I know you're excited about that.
They're doing more of it.
They're doing more of that.
I'm happy for its fans. I liked it a lot more. I liked the first episode a lot more than I thought I would. It had a pretty unique vibe to it, like the spy thriller.
They officially announced Titan Season 4, and they also... I don't know if they announced it during today. I assume it was today, maybe it was already announced, but Doom Patrol's also getting a Season 4.
News to me, so I assume it was today.
So, all neat news, and Young Justice, the new season of that, actually... They kind of shadow dropped that. It started today on HBO Max.
Oh, shit.
They just said, hey, first episode streaming now.
Oh, that's cool. Because we'd heard nothing about it for a while. Obviously, we knew it was coming. We knew it was going on HBO Max. But we'd heard nothing in a while, so...
Yeah, they showed a trailer as well, but they said, was it called Young Justice Phantoms or something like that?
I don't remember.
It's got a title that the last one did, but...
I think they all have since after the first one.
Yeah.
The second one was in Invasion, third was Outsiders.
That's right. So, they showed a trailer and was like, hey, it's starting today, which was just cool. People are excited about that show. It's nice that a lot of that DC Universe stuff, good or bad, did get to live more. Once it shifted over to HBO Max, there was a concern that a lot of it might just be cancelled in the transition.
It would be unfair of it to have been cancelled because of its platform rather than because of its quality.
Oh yeah, I mean it'd be unfair, but I wouldn't have even thought they'd like made a choice to cancel it so much as it would be more of a clerical error because things are moving over. Some things just don't happen. Kind of thing.
Laughing Swamp Thing.
Well, I mean,
which that is the epitome of cancelled because of a clerical error.
Quality's quality, but that was a different clerical error. That was its own clerical error.
It was literally because of an accounting error. That oops.
Oh well, can't say I'm upset though.
Not that disappointed by it. It was terrible.
It's a shame though, because Swamp Thing himself looked fantastic.
Yeah, where they spent all the money.
Yeah, the actual Swamp Thing, the creature, if you want to call him that, looked amazing, but then the writing and everything else was terrible, which is just a shame. So, hey ho. They had a talking segment again about that new Batman animated series that the old animated crew are coming back together. It's the one that's based more on the classic, almost 30s, 40s Batman. It's going to be a bit more adult themed. Bruce Timm's there, the whole gang. So, they said a lot of the right things you want to hear. It's going to be moody. They had to really lean into even that pulpy noir aesthetic even more because it's kind of the time period they're shooting for. So,
that's cool.
Cool. They didn't have any footage from the actual show. They did show like a sort of like test thing they did, which was in black and white, but they said it's not going to be in black and white when they actually make the show. This was just like a proof of concept kind of thing they showed to.
I wouldn't mind if it was in black and white though, given
that'd be interesting for sure.
What it's going for.
Yeah. There was a trailer for or something to do with the Harley Quinn animated series. I wasn't paying attention though, so I can't tell you what it was, but there was stuff happening with Harley Quinn. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still great because first two seasons were. Second season was even better.
I'm sure people who care about it were happy enough with it. So I think that's the movie and TV stuff. But both the big video games that they've got in the works did get trailers.
Was it just the story? Because all I saw was the story trailers.
Yeah, it was just there was no like extended gameplay, which is funny because Gotham Knights did get that last year. There was a big, and maybe they'll still will. Maybe they'll do like a expose on a website. Maybe IGN or something will get a exclusive tomorrow or something.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a casualty of them cutting it down to this 4-hour show. Is we don't want to do a 20-minute gameplay demo.
Yeah, I thought the trailers for both were solid enough as story trailers go.
Yeah.
In particular, I thought Suicide Squad sold me quite nicely on the humor of the characters. There was a lot of fun banter. Particularly enjoyed the joke where they're telling Waller that Penguin's running away and Waller remotely electrocutes him, but then they keep joking and saying, "Oh, he's still getting away. It's not quite worked." So he keeps getting electrocuted while he's lying on the ground. And it's just continuously getting a little bit funnier and funnier. And then King Shark takes it too far by yelling, "Blow his head off."
Yeah. And the rest of them are just like, oh god damn it.
King Shark's taking it too far. I mean, I'm not really disappointed we didn't see gameplay of Gotham Knights because we saw enough of that last year and I know what to expect from that. Because Suicide Squad, they're going like co-op, but you can play single player. Like, I kind of wanted to see what that was like. I mean, you know, with Guardians of the Galaxy coming out, which is definitely a single player game, but you're controlling your party members. Like, part of me, the hope is that it might feel like that if you're playing single player. You know,
Dream.
that would be the perfect scenario of it. But we didn't get to see any of the gameplay. But characters seem funny.
We're going to see some soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, characters seem funny. Voice acting sounded good. It looks big budget. So
yeah, I'm as excited as I can be without seeing any gameplay.
Yeah. They said coming 2022 still, as is Gotham Knights. You assume Gotham Knights will be first because Gotham Knights was meant to be 2021 until it got pushed. So you'd expect that'll be first between the two still.
Yeah, barring anything drastic that's changed on that game's development, which could well have done. Maybe because it showed off such an extended gameplay feature and they got some feedback, maybe they had a lot more things to change behind the scenes than we realized.
Possibly it is worth mentioning, it just said 2022 and that. It didn't say spring, didn't say summer, it just said 2022. So
yeah,
maybe they just don't want to be too specific yet until they've got it more locked down. But again, that was more of a story trailer where it was like, hey, we're really going to tease the Court of Owls, which are the villains of the game. And they showed like the four main characters in a variety of situations kind of like being preyed upon.
Who was that voice in Penguin? It was annoying the hell out of me. I'm like, I know who this is, but I know the voice.
I don't know the real name, but I think it's the same guy who does Adam Jensen and Deus Ex games.
Oh, it might be.
I think that's who it is.
I was surprised. I'm unaccustomed to thinking of Penguin with such a mobster voice. I know he kind of fits into that style of criminal, but he's usually more eccentric, right, than the traditional gangsters and mobsters of Gotham. I don't think of him having that voice.
I do hope the story is fun because I like the idea of like these characters getting to, you know, investigate something without Bruce. Although I'm going to drop not a spoiler because I don't know if this is true. This is just a theory, right? But I've got a good feeling about it. So if you really want to not have this in your head, go on. But what are the types? So obviously they say Batman's dead. We all roll our eyes and go, yeah, sure, he's showing up.
Yeah, we said this last year,
right? I've got a more specific theory though. He's going to be one of the Talons. He's going to be the main Talon you're going to have to fight at the end. He's going to be like, it's going to be reanimated Bruce with a Talon mask on.
Probably.
That's what's happening. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah. This is very Arkham Knight, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, definitely not that person. They're definitely not in this game.
Yes.
Sure they're not. Definitely not that one there in the mask, right? Nope.
I will say though, I do like the idea that there's some good opportunities though, because obviously we've got these four main characters. It's very easy DLC, I think, for this, where you put in some other Bat Legacy characters. Like you can
characters, yeah,
you can easily see like Damian, Steph, Cass, Batwoman, you know, easily slotting into this game.
It'd be really easy as well to have DLC for just one character, because I'm assuming a lot of the story is you play as whichever one you actually want to play as, and it kind of works around that.
Which is so funny to me because like I kind of like I almost want to see like both like Babs and Dick's reactions to certain events and things like that. So
play it twice.
Yeah, I may have to play it twice to get all the.
Yeah, I think that might be the solution. Which, honestly, is not the worst case scenario.
Unless
assuming the game is fun.
Unless what they do a thing where for certain story missions, like you can play whoever you want during the mission, but when it gets to the cutscene, like no, this is the Red Hood part of the story, so you're going to see Red Hood and which would make more sense from a writing perspective, so they can actually write things properly. And
I'd be okay if they even locked it into like this mission you have to play as you know, whoever.
Yeah, if you're playing co-op, the second character can be whoever along with this person, but this character has to be here for this mission. That would be fine as well. Again, from a writing perspective, it's just like you have to keep it so vague and open if you can be any of them at any time.
It's not too dissimilar from the I don't hope the game is like this, but the Square Enix Avengers game. The first like half of that game, the campaign, is very much this is this character's story mission. You are playing through them as this character. And then it gets to a point where it's just like, go do some missions, do whatever the hell you want. And the game drops off a cliff at that point.
Yeah.
But up until that moment, the story is good. It is well written. There are good characters, and it plays them for their appropriate mission.
I think what goes for this is that because we know it's open world and because it's basically following the Arkham formula, even if it's not going to exactly work like an Arkham game, is that, yeah, when you're out in the open world doing side missions and stuff, you can be whoever you want. But when you go and initiate a main story mission by going into a building, it can make the change there. It can be like, no, now you're going to turn to this character because this is who's relevant to this part of the story.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
There's a lot of solutions to this in gaming that I'm sure they've thought of. That this isn't like a nobody developer. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, be better than Avengers. That's the hope.
Low bar, but I got faith.
Basically, give me an Arkham style experience, with the Bat family members, and I'll be.
I remember thinking it looked a little bit grindy.
Yeah, they had like damage numbers coming off some of the bosses and stuff in the footage we saw last time.
But that's like, I can kind of still live with that if the combat's fun. I can live with it being a bit grindy, and assuming the story backs it up as well, which I've got a modicum of faith in the story at this point. I think the story trailer stuff has looked pretty solid both times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say Suicide Squad does look the more bigger budget game of the two, but that may have been a pre-rendered cutscene though, which might be why it looks so high production value compared to.
I suspect it was, yeah.
Because if Gotham Knights was pre-rendered, then it didn't look a fancy. It looked normal enough to just be in game. I guess what I'm saying.
Engine at the very least, yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see. But was that pretty much everything? Like, I didn't make a list or anything. I just kind of like whatever stuck out. We'll talk about.
Let me see what you actually told me about, in case we've missed any of that stuff.
Yeah, just in case there's anything obvious we've lost over.
Suicide Squad, Peacemaker.
Oh, Peacemaker, yes, Peacemaker. This was actually one of the ones where a lot of the Zoom call was a bit dull, but a lot of the prelude to it was actually kind of interesting because it was. Peacemaker's not a new character, and I'm sure some of these characters that are in the show are deep pulls from comics, right? Because Vigilante's in there is kind of like a joke side character. But like it was basically the actor saying, "Hey, this is my character, and this is what they are in this team that Peacemaker's going to get roped into." Is like a, hey, you can make up
very unused to Vigilante being so Deadpool-esque.
Yeah, very deadpan as well. It seems from the or at the very least he's kind of wacky, and then Peacemaker's very deadpan with him. But there's the one woman who seems to maybe like Peacemaker a little bit. Everyone else thinks he's a dick. But yeah, there's like a teaser trailer that goes along with this, which maybe indicates that it's not too far away from it happening. I will say, actually, they had what probably the only presenter at the only show in 4 hours that I actually kind of enjoyed was the guy who played Javelin in the Suicide Squad movie. He was there for quite a bit early on, and he had a nice little lead-in to this as well, where he was sort of complaining that Peacemaker got a spin-off and he didn't. So he was the only one that he was so funny and natural at being funny and felt like he was actually cracking jokes that he was the only one that didn't come off as awkward. But so credit to him. But yeah, so did they put this out as like a sort of trailer you could watch then? That you saw? Yeah. Okay. What did you think of it then?
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty solid. I didn't see any of that lead-in stuff. Like I said, some of them they uploaded with like the Black Adam one had all the other stuff in it. This one was just the trailer. Yeah, it looks fun. I only watched the Suicide Squad movie like a couple of weeks ago, so it's very fresh in my mind. This looks like a pretty natural follow-on for that stuff, right? With that character and kind of like, follow. It feels exactly the same, which is to be expected when it's the same people kind of behind it all. Given that I was a fan of it in that movie, I'll probably be a fan of it in this show.
Yeah, if you like Peacemaker in the movie, and I think we both did, then there's it's not exactly a big like important piece of the DC mythology or anything. It's just kind of a funny little side show with an entertaining performance by John Cena. Who
if it's fun, that's enough.
Yeah,
and it looks like it will be fun.
I'm okay with that. if anything, I'm getting more and more jaded by things that want to try and feel important by bringing up characters and names and things. But
It's very telling that like Doom Patrol is one of our favorites, right? Where that doesn't give a shit about being important. It's like, no, we're going to do the wackiest, funnest things we can think of.
yeah, so no, but that was good. There was a wide variety of things. I just wish they'd condensed this down like at least to an hour. Like this was at least 4 times longer than it should have been for what they had to show. Far too much fluff, far too many cringy presenters. Tighter. And plus, that's the thing. Like, obviously, I know part of the appeal is like, hey, you keep dangling that Batman trailer, and they're going to stick around for that, so they'll see all these other things. But if you condense it down to an hour and make it more concentrated, more people will actually wait for it. More people will stick out the entire show and see all the things you show them.
How many people checked out and went, I'll just watch the Batman trailer when it goes up online?
Yeah.
2 minutes after you air it on here anyway.
Yeah, probably most. Honestly, it was a pretty. And most people who did have it on probably eventually stopped paying attention to it. You know, I was kind of just had it on background noise a lot of the time because it just wasn't that
4
interesting.
hours is a long time.
So, be more concentrated, I'd say. Be more specific. And the stuff that was making me laugh was more like the one good presenter or Jeff Keighley popping up and me just, dropping some
Tackling because he is everywhere.
Just because he's that guy. He's the Keighley. Why isn't Keighley hosting this? He's not he's not the best, but he's at least like I'm used to him now. Like I'm used to the way he presents things.
Hey, he's a lot better than he used to be.
Get him and Joel McHale, get the dream team together again.
And hey, McHale's on Stargirl, so
true, yeah.
It would have fit.
He is part of the DC extended universe, seemingly. So
yeah,
that's good. There wasn't much else. There wasn't really anything super surprising. The only other thing I suppose I should mention is that so they kept showing this fan art every so often, and the whole idea is that Jim Lee was going to like be there to pick out a winner or announce the winners at the end of this. It was a kind of a competition, I guess. But he also was there to reveal. So apparently, he's been posting images for the past week or so. It's been 12 images, and there's 4 more to like parts to reveal at the end here. And this is basically a nothing thing. It kind of becomes the full cover for the original Crisis, right? But the idea is that he drew different characters, but they were just in the same poses, and it's kind of like, you can, only when you look at it as a whole and kind of squint at it, you can kind of see it, because like it's like each square like, is intentionally a different character from the other one that's attached to and stuff like kind of meant to be a puzzle. So anyway, but there was a weird part, and so I don't think this was worth mentioning on its own. But then the other presenter said, "So what does this mean? Is this going to something?" And Jim Lee said, "Well, yeah." And then he started talking, and it bleeped out a bunch of words that he said, as if he was swearing, but it was more like it was censoring spoilers for some announcement.
The information. Yeah.
And then afterwards, the other presenter was like, "Oh, it's not just us. Like, there's millions of people watching." There wasn't millions. YouTube was about 5,000 or 50,000. But even 50,000 is a far cry.
50,000 is very believable. I'd say 5,000 seems absurdly low, frankly.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also streaming it on their own website. But I assume YouTube has more than their website does. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that YouTube had the higher amount. And maybe Twitch has another, couple of dozen thousand. I don't know. But regardless, like, maybe you're topping 100,000. Maybe. In total.
I'd say, 100 to 150.
Yeah. At your peak. Not millions.
Yeah.
But he's like, we can sort that in post, just bleep it out, right? And they can sort of laugh it off. And I thought, that's weird. Maybe they're going to like announce like a comic book event or something at the end of the show. But they never did. So, but it kind of felt like they're, okay, he's clearly hiding something, and like they're doing something next year, I guess.
I even just checked the awful site just because they post everything, and I thought, well, maybe they've kind of gone, oh, we know what this is, because he loves being that smug prick.
Yes.
Nothing, not even a mention.
Yeah,
which means that they have no idea.
Yeah, the only other things, really comic book wise, they did mention that Monkey Prince Comics coming in 2022, which was teased in that the Pride special. I can't remember. Well, it wasn't the Pride special. It was the Asian Heritage special with all the Asian characters.
A 10-page zero issue for free.
Oh, is there? There you go. But they're doing an ongoing, or at least a miniseries with Jean Ling Yang coming. And that was obviously coming because he did that story in that book. And it felt like it was setting up an ongoing.
It's a 12-issue limited.
There you go.
In February.
There you go. And then Blood Syndicate's coming to the Maelstone stuff was the other thing that was announced. But that was pretty much it.
The only other thing I'm looking at here is, yes, it was Phantoms is the subtitle for Young Justice.
There you go. There you go.
We covered everything else of interest that I'm looking at on there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, see if this was an hour long and all the same stuff we just talked about had been in there, it would have probably felt like a nice packed hour. Couple of big trailers, couple of big game trailers, some minor announcements, first glimpse of a couple of things in costume and whatnot. But instead, it was like this. Like you don't have enough for 4 hours here. This is 90% fluff.
Yeah.
So the experience of watching it, I don't think was that pleasant. It was kind of boring and dull.
But the actual content, if you take just the content and watch it the way I did, yeah, it's not bad.
It was alright, yeah. I mean, probably not like earth-shattering.
No.
As a batch of content, there's definitely like game conferences, especially when you go back to last year and it's like the new consoles are coming out, so they're showing like the best of what they've got in like an hour to try and convince you to buy a console. So those feel a lot more condensed, and it's like, oh shit, this is like heavy hitter after heavy hitter. That's where it's like, one or two heavy hitters, some mid-tier stuff, and so I'm like, okay, some neat teases, and that's about it, which is fine. But there you go. So yeah, there you go. That's your little bonus. This is bizarrely going to be out probably before the public edition of this week's episode. So if you're watching this now, patrons have already got this week's episode, and you'll have it soon. If you're a patron and you already watched the episode, then well, hope you enjoyed this then.
You gotta wait till next week.
Yeah, you're done. You're done for the week, but this was extra, so there you go. I mean, the idea of doing this was kind of like a threefold thing. One is the news wouldn't be a week late when we finally talk about it, and it wouldn't be extending the length of the next episode by an absurd amount. Two, some of it was going to be video game related, which Matt isn't really going to have much to say on. And then three, Connor had to miss the regular episode this week, and he was available to do something today, so it just kind of made sense. There was like a nice multi-pronged benefit of doing this.
It kind of boils down to, why not?
Pretty much. And we made it to an hour. I was going to feel bad if it was under an hour. Was it really worth doing? But we made it to an hour.
I even asked you, I was like, look, you're watching, I'm not. Is there enough that it's going to be worth doing? You're like, what's that?
Well, I already promised it on the regular show, so we had to do it.
It was going out before the regular show. They'd never known, except the patrons.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to edit it out though. Like the public would still get the tease.
You could have edited it out.
I wasn't going to though.
Well, that's just because you're lazy. I like how you're like, no, I'm going to commit to at least doing an hour recording of this, regardless how I feel, rather than spending a few minutes editing that episode.
It's a few minutes of editing, but then it's like, half an hour of exporting, then I have to re-upload. It's a whole thing. The timestamps will all be wrong. I have to redo all the timestamps, and that's all the horror. 15-20 minutes of like finding where all the things start. You undersell it. You undersell it a little bit, okay? Undersell it. But do you know if you're going to be on the next regular episode?
That depends on whether or not we can record on a different day. I will speak to
Matt. So you're hoping it won't be the regular day?
Yeah. I got Thursday, Friday off.
Okay. Well, you can negotiate that with Matt, but so we'll see. It'll either be myself and Matt, or myself, Matt, and Connor, depending on how those negotiations go.
Yeah.
So, but yes, there you go. I won't do all the usual plugging that I normally do, but I will say thank you for watching. If you like Comics From The Multiverse, like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that jazz, and check us out on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and you can support us over there for as little as $1 per month. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching, and check out the full regular show. In fact, actually, before we go off, there is one anecdote I have to tell about today. Related to FanDome, which is too I know what this is. Which is too funny not to tell everyone. I believe I didn't mention this earlier. All right, so I know people have probably turned this off already because they think it's over, and I'm just doing the outro. No. So, weird thing today. So I was tweeting for the first hour or so of this. I sort of lost interest and cared enough to tweet after that. But during one of the Zoom call segments, I tweeted out these Zoom call segments, hashtag DC FanDome, like I was tagging everything that I was saying about it. And I put a gif of Chandler from Friends, and it was a gif of him, falling asleep at his desk at work, and kind of like, that thing where you sort of fall asleep and then wake up and sort of like, and kind of like try to pretend you weren't falling asleep, right? That kind of moment, right? So the sentiment of the tweet was clearly saying, this is boring as shit, and it's making me fall asleep. That was the tweet. The official DC Comics Twitter, for some reason, decided to retweet me. And I didn't even notice it first. I was paying attention to something. I looked down and noticed the tweet had like 30, 40 likes. And I'm like, wait, why has that got so many likes already? What's going on? And then I was like, and then someone responded to it saying, and it was in a different language, but it was, I could understand it enough that it was like, why did DC retweet this? And I'm like, wait, what? And I went and checked, and sure enough, they'd retweeted it. And what's funny is that because I was paying attention to it, I could tell the moment that they retweeted it, because the likes were just like ticking up for like 5-10 minutes. They were just ticking up. It hit about 93, and then all of a sudden it went dead.
It's still on 93 right now.
Yeah. It just went
tell there was
dead.
like some interns like it's seeing DC FanDome retweet, not even looking at it, and then they saw these rolling up like, why are you retweeting this, DC? And they're like, yeah, abort, quick.
Oh, it cracked me up. I got like 15, 16 retweets. I mean, not including DC themselves.
18 plus 12 quote tweets apparently. I just wanted to check that they'd done it. I just said there wasn't a glitch.
So no, it was just an amusing little. It was honestly at that point in the show, it was the most exciting thing that had happened so far. Was this mistake?
Every single one of those quote retweets is just good. Imagine DC retweeting this.
I almost felt bad for whatever show was being talked about in the Zoom call, because it was like, I don't have anything against the show. It was just the Zoom call.
Do you even know what
shit.
it was? Like, do you remember?
It may have been Peacemaker, actually. It may have been when they were on in the Zoom call for Peacemaker. I didn't want to shit on Peacemaker. It was the Zoom call format where they're just all, like, and I know technically we're on a similar type of thing for our shows, but we're having a conversation. There's back and forth. We do not have a
budget.
Well, it's not like they have a budget for these Zoom calls either. They're just sitting there and they're...
No, but I think DC FanDome as a whole has a budget.
Oh, sure, yes. But I think this is better than their Zoom calls, and my reason for that being that, they're asking each other really sort of like pre-baked questions so they can give like a media-friendly answer, and be enthusiastic. It's all a bit fake and phony, and yeah, it's all got a sheen to it that feels just a bit fabricated. Whereas, I'll make fun of Connor at the drop of a hat if the occasion calls for it, and
I mean, when the occasion doesn't call for it.
Those are the ones that I really enjoy.
Yes, I've noticed.
So I had to mention that. It was too funny, but it was really wild that I responded to it saying, why did they retweet this? But I said, but also while you're here, check out at DC Comics Podcast. Just to milk it a little bit, just in case. But clearly they stopped it. There was a moment where they unretweeted it, and it all just stopped dead.
I love how like whenever someone gets a viral tweet, they're usually like, there's either here's my SoundCloud, or you've got the ones where they're paid for ads, and it's like lava lamps or sex toys or something. Like it's whatever random product that way. There was a week where it was glow in the dark stars to put on your ceiling. That was the thing for a week that every viral tweet had. But it's like, nah, screw all that. Go to DC Comics Podcast now.
You got your shell. You got your shell. But it was amusing. And obviously, I wish they didn't unretweet it. It'd have been funnier, and it'd have been just nice to see how high it went. But so, I mean, it doesn't happen to me often where the likes are coming in so quick that like every time it updates, it's jumping up like another 5 or whatever. Like, I don't have that many viral tweets. It's happened a couple of times, maybe in 10 years. So, thanks for that, DC. There you go. That's been the show. Thank you very much for joining us. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.